Hey there, and welcome to the Hub of Junior Golf Podcast. I'm Ryan Burt, joined as always by the founder of the Junior Golf Hub, Roger Nick. And Roger, a really big week on the calendar with the United States Women's Open, but not just any U.S. Women's Open. It is at Pebble Beach, and certainly the ladies more and more, certainly KPMG has had a lot to do with it, but playing some of the iconic courses that we've seen over the years on the men's side. How excited are you to see the women? Pebble Beach, we all know every hole, so it should be pretty special.
I'm very excited. I was watching some of the telecasts last night. They were talking with Annika and her historic run with the U.S. Open and then being there playing Pebble Beach. And I think she made one comment, which I thought was great. And because they asked her how they thought she would do. And she's like, well, I think I'll do is my best, but not what I used to do. I was always used to being able to hit every shot I saw. Now it's a little different at the age that she is. But she sounds very excited. All the women that's talking about it sound very excited about playing there. The venue looks amazing right now this time of year. So I'm curious to know whether the wind is going to blow, if it's going to get a little drier, because I guess it's a little bit of a kind of a damp season there right now. Yeah. So that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I think it is going to play a little bit soft, which could provide for some fireworks. Roger, you got Annika, Michelle Wie, and Rose Zhang. Certainly, you're looking at two certainly icons in the game. And I call Michelle Wie an icon. I think that there was the potential at one point that she could have been Tiger Woods for women's golf. She had that kind of popularity and following, and obviously the career, like so many with so much hype, it is so difficult to ever live up to the expectation. Obviously, Tiger probably exceeded it, which seems impossible. But you have Annika, who did it. You have Michelle Wie, who was supposed to do it. And now you have Rose Zhang. I find those three really intriguing stories. Which of those three will you be watching the closest?
Wow, great question. I would say right now, Rose Zhang. I mean, coming out the way she's come out, winning her first professional event, playing well in her first major, having a little bit of a tie to her with going through the PDI with us at Stanford, seeing how she's going to do, what is that going to translate into? But the story around her, being an American player, being, a girl who's grown up, worked hard, and having this success, and just, obviously having a personal touch with her. I think I'll probably be following her, and because I think hopefully the better she does, the more girls get involved, the more traction we get with girls golf, and hey, I want to be like Rose. And so I think that's a big part of it for me. I definitely love the story with Annika being there playing. I think she has the potential to go out and compete this week, so that's going to be very intriguing. I think the golf course is set up for someone like herself who hits it straight and hits it fairly long. As she said, not as long as he used to, but I think it's going to be really fun to watch her play with these younger players. And then Michelle Wie. I mean, listen, who knows? She might catch lightning in a bottle. She has not played a lot. Obviously, she's been taking some time off with her kids, and being home and being a mom, which I think is awesome. But she can still hit it. She still moves it. So it could be really fun. She's won a U.S. Open. She knows what it feels like. I think she won at Pinehurst the year they had it at Pinehurst. Yeah. So this kind of historic kind of opportunity, maybe she steps up. You never know. So
yeah, what's interesting for me for Wie is her major career was actually better at 15 than it was when she turned professional. I mean, as an amateur, she really was, kind of probably a little less pressure, there's zero pressure this week on her. I don't have any idea what kind of shape her game is in, but certainly if she's taken this super serious and has been preparing for it, she could be intriguing. The Rose Zhang, for our loyal listeners, and we thank you, certainly the Hub of Junior Golf Podcast. We knew there was an opening, a spot that for questions that needed to be answered. Weekly, Roger, we do talk about the Performance Development Index. And how important that is for the growth of your young player. Tell us the story of your interaction with Rose Zhang at Stanford, and what was her reaction and feeling as she went through PDI?
Yeah, no, it was very interesting because obviously she was coming off a historic freshman year at Stanford. So we were out there in the fall last year, and she works very hard on her game. And so as we go out, as we test all facets of the game, from chipping to putting to full swing and ball shot and ball flight control, as we set it up for her, which was, hey, you know what, I want you to take this seriously as though you're playing in a round of golf. That's kind of the idea, because they'll feel hopefully a little bit of pressure. Hey, one shot, every shot matters. And when, kind of going through this, Rose, said afterwards, which was, wow. I said, hey, Rose, how did you feel? Did it make you feel like it was important? She goes, oh my God, I actually felt a little pressure. I felt like I had to perform. And I like that. And, so she said, can I do this every day after I practice to kind of make sure that I'm kind of in tune with my game? And I said, yeah, that's what it's there for. So here's a player who clearly #1 amateur in the world at the time, playing, great golf, does our assessment. And, obviously there's some physical aspects of it as well. I think she did those really well as well. I think at that level, they're not just looking at golf, they're looking at all facets of their game as a player. But she was very intrigued by, hey, this makes me think I've got to keep working on these fine little motor skills, like hitting a 3-yard chip or hitting a 10-yard chip, or, hey, I've got to, have ball flight control. I got to, change trajectories. I got to be able to hit shots moving the ball around. I think one of the things that she learned from that was she hit the ball extremely straight. She had a trajectory, which was relatively high. And I think, one of her comments after that, which was, boy, if I'm going to win major championships, I've got to start, learning how to move the golf ball a little bit more and have more windows to hit it to. So I thought that was really neat from a player at her level. Doesn't mean she's got to hit all of those shots all the time, but I think she realized that she's going to need those in her bag at some point. And that's the whole point of the assessment.
Wow, that answer provided so many follow-up questions, but let's just continue with Rose, and then I want to get to something you said there. Were you more impressed, or should I say more alert to her maturity for her age, or her actual skill of the game?
I think maturity definitely stands out. I mean, and you can see it in all of her interviews. You can see it in all the things that she does. She's very thoughtful. She's not going to just give a whimsical answer, if you will. She definitely wanted to understand what was behind the performance index. She wanted to know why this might matter. And I think she took that very seriously. And I think, there were other players there that who are trying to reach very high levels of the game that maybe didn't take it as seriously, or wasn't as mature about it, kind of turned it into this doesn't really matter. Well, it kind of does matter, right? Yeah. You got to have the skills, right? So if you're looking at any kind of performance metrics, and if you don't know if you actually have the skills to actually look at stats and say, well, my stats of hitting greens or proximity, well, if I don't know that I actually have those skills to hit those shots, well, what's going to really happen? I don't know, right? So I think she was very mature.
We welcome in the head coach of the BYU women's golf program, Carrie Summerhays. Coach, thanks so much for joining us this week. You're on with Ryan Burr and Roger Nick. Certainly we have followed your story, career, not only as a player, but as a coach. Been the head coach at BYU since July of 2010. It's been a long run, 13 solid years, and I know you're excited about the week ahead at Pebble Beach. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now in your summer vacation, if you will.
Yeah, my summer vacation has been amazing. I was actually last week caddied for my brother in the Senior Open, Joseph Summerhays, and now hopped on a plane to Pebble Beach, and my player Alicia May Mateo got into the Open, and it's been a dream week. We got to play Cypress and Pebble in one day, so we're doing pretty good on our summer vacation.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. Certainly Pebble is one of the true iconic places, not only in the United States, but in the world. It is a special place. If you go there, it has some magic to it. The fact that the ladies are playing there this week, you have a player there, certainly with the emergence of Rose Zhang, kind of throwing some energy into the LPGA. How excited are you for women's golf this week?
I'll tell you what, I can't be more excited about this venue. And it's funny you mentioned Rose. She shot 63 here in a college event. How good is that? 63 at Pebble. It's a little different conditions this week, but it'll be, it's going to be exciting to see the ladies on Pebble. And I mean, I've been waiting for this for a long time. When they announced it, it was, you start dreaming of playing in it the second they announced Pebble Beach. And yeah, it's a good move for women's golf to put us on a course like Pebble. It's amazing.
Yeah, Carrie, that's awesome. This is Roger. So thanks for taking the time today. Obviously looking at your career as a player and now a coach, you were kind of what we would call the epitome of an athlete who plays golf. 4-star athlete in all the sports, it seems, that you played. How do you view that, and how does that help you as a player and now as a coach as you recruit some of your players coming into BYU? Tell me how that plays a role in what you're doing. Yeah,
there's several roles that played. Two off the top of my head I had different coaches, so I learned from different coaches but also how to compete. In high school I played basketball, soccer, softball, and you learn how to compete and you learn how to win, and you learn how to work as a team, right? And you learn what's important. And then, of course, just my dad in golf. I think he was the ultimate competitor. I mean, people don't realize. I mean, he didn't win many. He won 3 times on the senior tour, but the guy was a top 10 machine. And so I learned how to compete. From him, the ultimate competitor. But the sports for sure. I mean, the team sports, and you see that too in recruiting. I love an athlete. I mean, I will take an athlete that's maybe not, a competitive athlete. Ooh, that I'll take them any day, and they will surpass, the person with the beautiful swing that, but doesn't know how to compete and win. That's huge.
This is the Hub of Junior Golf podcast with BYU women's coach Carrie Summerhays. Carrie, I want to follow up with that, because the reality of golf, and we do have to deal in realities these days, there are not many girls that are 4 sport stars in high school anymore. Golf and really all sports, unfortunately, have become year-round quests. If you're not playing year-round, there's so many that are, and there is that fear that you're going to get passed up because someone's working hard because you decided to play the basketball season for your high school instead of be at the range for 6 hours a day. So as a coach, that's job at BYU is to win, and your job obviously is to put the best team out. How do you try to compartmentalize the player that might not, that is playing other sports, but against the player that is just, 8 hours a day in a good climate that is just pounding balls?
There's, that's an interesting concept, to ponder. And, because, I obviously grew up playing every other sport, and I actually, my children, they have picked their sports, and we force them to sit. As parents, it's crazy, these systems that want them just to play. And, we were monitoring, my daughter plays soccer. And once we realized, she's running 8-10 miles in a game, we were like forcing her to rest, and these coaches, of course, they want to practice, but, we sit them, if you have a long weekend, it's like, hey, you need to rest and do other things. And, some people that go out and practice 8 hours a day, they can get it done. There's different elements to that, to a competitor that, the person that beats balls all day still might be able to win. You got to look at the inside a little bit, right? Like, how does that mind click, especially under the gun? So there's other things besides that. But I love, a multi-sport athlete, just because there's just a little bit more that they get, right, about competing and working as a team. And unless a golfer who beats balls all day has experience, they're going to struggle. You need that experience of competing for sure.
Yeah, that's a really great answer there, Carrie. One of the things that we try to do on this show is help the parents understand some of these things. And as you were just talking, something, kind of popped in my head about, what's the parent's role in understanding what you just talked about, which is the importance of having time, downtime, but also the importance of competing and competing to win, and also, knowing that there are stages of that. So what could you tell the parents in the audience, if you will, what would you have your girls doing?
You know what? I just told a girl, she committed day one, and they wanted them to play in these tournaments, but she wanted to go to Lake Powell, and I said, go to Lake Powell. You'll never regret going to Lake Powell. There's always another tournament to play in, but they need rest, and they need a parent, not a coach, and I learned this through my daughter, right? I realized early she did not want me to be her coach. She wanted me to be her mother, right? She wanted me to hug her after the game, tell her I love her. And I kind of taught my husband how to, constructively, positively, right? After games, talk about, okay, what did we learn? What did you do well? What could you do better next time? Okay, let's let it go. Let's rest. Let's go help you work on that one thing, and then let's get out there, and as long as they're giving everything they have, they need some downtime, right? Like, and they need to rest. And there is this idea of, 8 hours a day, 8, 10, 12 hours a day. And this is being forced on these kids, and they're really tired and they're burnt out, and it's not coming from them, and if we found a way for them to make it fun, they'll spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day on their own because it's so much fun and they don't want to leave. Right. But if we're forcing these kids to stay there and work, they get burned out, and they don't like it when they actually do like it. Right. But they're being forced to do it in a way that they don't want to do. Right. Like, I have players that want to play. Okay, go play. I have players that want to do drills. Great. Do drills. Whatever makes it fun. That's how you get them to stay longer. My dad, he was a legend. And he never once forced us to play. He gave us the club and said, go figure it out. Ask me questions if you want. And anytime we got angry, he goes, this is the best sport in the world. If you're going to get mad, don't play. Like, he pushed us to not play, unless it came from us. And so that's how we grew. That's why Summerhays love the game of golf, because it's our choice, right? And he made it so much fun that we itched to get there in the morning, and we never wanted to leave. So,
yeah. Coach, here is the disconnect with the parent, and what they're going to say to us is, what Coach Summerhays is saying is great, but there's no way my daughter or son is going to even be recruited by BYU if they are taking time off and playing other sports, because the reality for them, this is the parents I'm speaking of, Coach, is they're looking at a ranking system, and they believe that the ranking system in our country right now is what the only thing coaches look to make that and send that initial email or call. And the parents are so worried, scared, that if they let their kid go on vacation or they let their kid play another sport, that they're going to fall out of that ranking system and they're not going to get to play college golf. And I understand, for the very best, if they can probably go on vacation and they can play other sports. But for those players in the middle, the parents are telling us, you know what, I wish we could, but if I let my daughter take the summer off, there's no way she's playing college golf.
Yeah. You got to build them in. You got to be smart about it, and really research. Research, when is the time to play? When is the time to rest? When is the time to go on vacation? And I promise you there's time for all of that, right? And a happier kid is going to play better for you. And if you just manage it, right? Manage. Like, you've got to pay attention. And, the biggest disconnect if I'm being completely honest, is the relationship between the parent and the child.
Yeah.
Right? You have to have a relationship to where that kid can come to you and say, I am tired. I need a break. But then you can talk about what they can do at that time. Maybe they can do, maybe they just go work out, and not practice for a time, and then, so you've got to have this relationship to where you can talk to each other, where hard work is important and stress, but it's done in different ways. Right. So it's not looks the same. And I would stress the relationship, have a relationship to where you can talk to each other about your game, and talk to each other about when you need breaks, when you don't need breaks. And as long as, both people are, being true to, what is said, and being done, then it should work really well.
Yeah, Carrie, on that note, one of the things, again, back to, kind of how the expectations the parents are putting on these kids, and sometimes it creates a friction between even the player's coach and the, and the kid, and, because they're demanding of, hey, I got to go play in 23 events this year, and it has to be so many AJGA events and so many invitationals and so many of this. Is there a schedule that you look at or you've thought about and said, you know what, when these players come in and play for you, they're excited to come in and play because they didn't overplay in events and get burnt out because, again, forced by parents. Is there some kind of gauge that you look at when it comes to how many events is a good balance between taking enough time off, playing in enough events to actually know that you have the skills to play at the next level, and also, just being ready and developing skills?
Yeah, I mean, and I wouldn't say there's a specific number, you know what I mean? But you've got to play in a few, big tournaments, and as long as you're getting some experience, multiple experiences out there, that's what I look at, where are they playing? Do they have some variety? What are the scores they're shooting in those events? But I honestly don't like the kids that has all they do is play tournaments. That is a huge red flag to me. I don't like that. I don't think that's natural. I don't think it's healthy. Because nobody does that. No tour player does that. No college team does that. And it's just, you're just too tired, and so that is a huge red flag, but, spread it out, sporadic, and that's all, as long as you have a few of them per year, several, I don't know, you know what I mean? To play take a week off, play two, take a week off, plan it in like that, and it works.
Ryan, I think that was a golden nugget right there, and the red flag on how many tournaments, right? I mean, that's something we hear all the time from parents.
Concerning for sure, very concerning. It's just nobody does that, Nobody does that.
We had one of our listeners last week asked if their daughter had played 24 tournaments, and he said that she started slumping at the end of the year, and Roger and I were like, well, I mean, your girl's probably crawling to the 18th hole. That's just way too many events. Coach, I want to switch gears. I know we only have you for a brief time, so I want to switch gears to college golf on the women's side. It's never been stronger. Certainly, the television exposure that it's starting to get is incredible. I want to ask you, the rosters of college golf on the women's side are certainly trending more and more and more international, less and less and less Americans. Do you think this is just a trend that will reverse? There's nothing to it, or do you think that the fact that so many of these teams are being built with 3-4 international players on them is a concern for American golf?
I mean, I think Americans, need to step it up. I mean, these international programs are just incredible, right? The programs that they have for these kids, I mean, they're so well prepared, and I would say, Mary B in Hawaii did the same thing for those girls. They were so well prepared for college, and so you kind of look at those pockets, and you have to go, where it's hot, where it works. And we just have a lot of options too here, not that they, but the best, don't always play golf, right? Because there's a lot of options to play. But yeah, the trend is certainly international, and I think it will continue as long as they keep producing. So we can definitely step it. We created that system, right? We just created a national team system that I think is going to help.
I want to, Roger, just let me follow that up real quick with, you say the international player is just more prepared for college golf. I think this would be an incredible answer if you could tell us, Coach, what that means. How are they more prepared to go to college, handle the academics, being by themselves, and, of course, playing a college sport?
Well, they travel a ton, right? They travel, and so they're learning how to do school on the road. They're learning how to do their workouts on the road. They're learning how to manage their nutrition. They're learning how to make it work because they travel so much. They travel to different countries, and so they're better prepared when school hits, right? In America, you don't really do that. You don't travel during school, right? Like, we're terrified to take our kids out of school, right? Like, no, they can't miss a day. They can't miss a day, when these kids are missing all the time and learning how to do it, on the go. And so they're prepared that way. They're prepared. They play lots of different courses, different conditions. And so they're more all around that way.
Interesting.
Yeah. Great answer there. So this week at the U.S. Open, so Carrie, you have one of your players, but who's your pick?
My player, if she doesn't win, it's going to be a ball striker. We played with Cupcho, and how about this? She started on number 10 and birdied the first 4 holes.
Wow. And
I was like, okay, you're good at golf, So it's got to be whoever the best ball striker is on tour. Ronnie, her nickname's Ronnie, who hit 37 greens in a row.
Yeah.
If you hit 37 greens in a row, you're going to win. I think. She's a good pick right there. If you hit greens in regulation, you're going to win.
Especially those greens. They're so small. I mean, they're tiny.
They're tiny. Yeah. That's my favorite thing about it. It's just how small they are and, how you have to place it, right? So if you can place it in the right spot, you hit greens, woo. Yeah. Look out.
Coach, last thing, we find it, one of the intriguing storylines is you have Annika playing this week, obviously a legend. You have Michelle Wee playing this week, who was, I still say is a golf icon of women's golf. It didn't necessarily turn out the way that most had predicted or what the expectation was. And then you have Rose Zhang, who is obviously at the very beginning of what looks to be a very promising career. You have all three playing in this same event. Of those 3 stories, Coach, which one intrigues you the most?
You know what? I was surprised. Well, I wasn't surprised, but I was happy to see that Annika came to play. That just shows her support for the game. It showed, and she pushed this game, and she's done so much, right, for this game. And so the fact that she's here playing, to me, and she's more of my age, right? She's my idol, right? Whereas my player, Alicia, looks up to, Michelle Wee, right? Where she's like, wow, and I'm like, no, these kids they're kids to me, they're kids. But to see Annika come back, I thought that was very cool. But Rose, I mean, this would be the fact that she has shot 63, and I did see her make a double eagle in college. I mean, that girl, if she wins this week, that's probably one of the best stories for women's golf that could happen, I think.
It certainly seems like the entire sport is really watching and getting around Rose, and what a story that would be. Coach, your career at BYU has been incredible. Certainly, we thank you for your time today. You gave some really, really thoughtful and insightful answers that I know our post messaging from parents is going to be very thankful. So thank you so much for your time today. Enjoy Pebble. I know that's going to be difficult to do, right? No, kidding. Enjoy a great week. That's one of the magical spots in the world.
Yeah, it's heaven on earth for sure. Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks, Carrie. Enjoy.
Carrie Summerhays, the head coach of the women's golf program at BYU. Roger, we could have done 3 hours because some of those answers were so insightful. You had it pegged. She was a 4-star four-sport superstar in high school before ultimately she went with the family business, Summerhays, which was golf. But
Yeah.
she was pretty, she was pretty out there that she will take a competitor athlete over the 12-year-old phenom that has been playing golf 360 days a year. I felt she was pretty outspoken, Roger, as outspoken as any of the coaches we have about really what that one quality is she is looking for, and that's someone that's ready to compete.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I love that answer too, because, I came to golf a little bit later, not the level of the Summerhayses, but for sure, as an athlete, it was always enjoyable to kind of, try to figure it out. Right. And because once you did, it was like, oh, well, this is easy. Right. Yeah. And it sounds as though she kind of has that same mentality. And I think she touched on something there that we are starting to find within our assessment on the mental skills inventory of resourcefulness. Like when she was describing, the players from international players being able to be more prepared. What we're seeing and some of the information we're getting from the mental skills inventory is the word resourceful, right? And I think that's really what athletes that come from other sports who are experiencing many other things like travel and conditions and so forth, they become resourceful and they become independently resourceful versus, this idea that, hey, mom and dad's going to mow all the stuff down in front of me and they're going to bring and pack my lunch bag and they're going to pack my golf bag and I don't have to do anything. So they never really become as resourceful as we think they could or should be, right? So I think that's something that I think she highlighted that pretty well.
Well, I'm still torn, Roger, and every coach we've had on, and we've had, Stanford's head coach, Conrad Bray. We've had the J.C. Deacon, who just won the national championship. We've had Drew Kaiser, who coaches both the men's and the women's at Boston College, and now Coach Summerhays today. And they all kind of say the same thing. But I still say I'm not buying it. I understand from their perspective, it's really easy to say, take a vacation, play other sports, take 6 months off. But the people that are listening and watching this podcast, Roger, they know that's not realistic. The other thing is, we tell them all the time to stay home and play local. Yeah. And now you're hearing a coach say that they like their players because they've been to a million different countries. Now, a couple things. The United States is enormous. You're talking about a European player that is jumping on a train and going to, quote unquote, a different country, but it's kind of like going from Ohio to Pennsylvania.
Right.
So, I do think, this is why we do the podcast, Roger, because there just is no blueprint. You hear these coaches say one thing and they all say it, so it must be true. But as a parent, you're also smart enough to realize that if you're a grinder that is trying to get into maybe the middle or bottom of Division I golf, it just isn't that easy because there are hundreds, if not thousands, of players that are about the same as your son or daughter. And Yep. It's very difficult when you're in a rat race with 1,000 kids and there's nothing out there that's really, there's nothing deciphering the difference. I mean, these players aren't winning the AJGAs. They're not winning 3 AJGAs a year. That player can take a summer vacation because their ticket's written.
Right.
But the player that's finishing, 10th to 20th, the player that's winning their local state sections and things, but isn't into the AJGAs. Like, I know all these coaches say the same thing, Roger. I'm just saying for a parent, and that's who you and I are here talking to.
Yeah.
Boy, easier said than done. Easier said than done, my friend.
No doubt about it. I feel you, Ryan. I feel the same way. I just had a conversation with a parent this morning. Literally this morning, I got a call from a parent going, okay, we got to go to the Carrie Cup. We got to go to this event, and this event. There were 5 events in 4 weeks. And I'm like, okay, how are they going to prepare to be and play their best at any of those, right? And to your point, that middle of the pack is going to be it's such a rat race, if you will. What's going to separate you? And it is so difficult. And quite frankly, I don't want to make this about PDI, but I'm going to say that's one reason why we created PDI is like, okay, how do I separate myself? How do I get a college coach to recognize that maybe I don't have some of the tournament experiences as some of the other players? However, I'm a little bit of a late bloomer, and I think Carrie mentioned that as well. She likes, kids who are maybe a little bit late bloomer, good athlete, but develop those skill sets, know where your skill sets are to separate you from somebody who may be tapped out, who's playing every week, but not working on fundamental or foundational skills that may not go to college and pan out. Whereas somebody who takes their time, develops the foundational skill sets, knows where their skills are, and the coach knows that and recognizes that through the PDI, they're going to go, oh my God, that's a no-brainer for me. I'm okay that they're not playing as many events because I know that they're developing the skills that are needed to get where they want to play, right? So
yeah, and I mean, it's really coaches arguably need PDI, Roger, more than the players. Let me explain. You just heard Coach Summerhays say, I'll take an athlete 100 out of 100.
Mm-hmm.
But there's nothing other than PDI that really identifies golfers that are superior athletes. PDI does. Imagine if we get to where every coach is getting their PDI index to see, okay, be involved in that process of their recruiting, that this athlete that's shooting, maybe 2 or 3 shots worse than another player's, their metrics are off the charts. J.C. Deacon said, you remember what he said? The number one thing he recruits is speed.
Speed. Yep.
You can't play Florida without speed.
Yep.
And you're right, Florida, Stanford, they can have any player they want. So they can have the player that is shooting 64, 65, but they're also comparing that player with a player shooting 64, 65, 66 that might be hitting it 40 yards further, making the same score, same spot at the end of the tournaments. But we know some coaches, Coach Summerhays today, Coach Deacon, they are looking for athletes. They are looking, it's the old coach mentality, right? You give me the athlete, I'll get him to hit, I'll get him to get it in the hole.
You got it. That's right. 100%. And one of the things too, you're going to find that athletes will have probably less injury, if you're knowing that they're going to be able to compete every week, those kind of things, which that's what we see as we are, assessing players and athletes, and they learn how to actually work out earlier, get more, get healthier, if you will. So they're actually less likely to take downtime, especially you're having these speeds that, JC was talking about, right? That he's looking for. Well, just like DeChambeau and other players, they get injured when, Fitzpatrick's going through it right now. He picked up all this great speed last year to win the U.S. Open, but what's happened since then, because he's, been battling a neck injury, a wrist injury, all of that was because he wasn't really prepared to do that as an athlete. He was kind of a golfer, if you will.
So I'll take this moment once again to say, you hear it on this podcast, you hear coaches talk about it. PDI is an opportunity for you to take your son and daughter and take them out of that beating balls, out in the sun, summer, getting burned out, give them something completely new, super fun, challenge themselves with the score. It really is like, Drive, Chip, and Putt has been wonderful for what it's done and the exposure it's brought and the kids that it's brought, certainly by Augusta National. But, it is a very small, you're driving, you're chipping, and you're putting. PDI, actually, it goes from 1 to 100. And really, it's fun to do for the kids. It's fun for them to challenge. It's fun for them to, once a week go out, just do PDI and try to beat what they did the previous week. There's no doubt in my mind this is going to become one of the mainstays in golf as golf evolves here in the country. For players and parents that want to give it a try, they want to see what PDI is all about. They heard Rose Zhang is doing it now after every single practice. You just heard Coach Summerhays say they want an athlete. This tests your athleticism, not your golf. There's questions on there that have nothing to do with golf. It's just pure, what kind of athlete are you? what's the best way to get started with PDI, Roger?
Absolutely. They can reach out to me, Roger at the Golf Performance Center, or Danny Randolph at Danny at the Golf Performance Center. Set up your coach guided assessment. Find out more about it. Go to the JRGOLFPOD.com, look under player development, and you'll read all about it and reach out to us and set up your assessment.
And every person that follows us on the Hub of Junior Golf podcast, you get a free membership to the Junior Golf Hub. That is gigantic. If you're looking for a roadmap for your son or daughter to negotiate a wild, wacky world of junior golf, there's really only one spot. It's the Junior Golf Hub. We need to get this out to you people because it does answer so many of your questions from A to Z in junior golf. So be sure to take us up on the offer. Get in, get involved, find out how to work your way through the website, and it will answer so many of your questions. Roger, I'll leave you with this. You asked Coach Summerhays for her pick. She thinks it's flat going to be a ball striker. You got your eye on somebody to win at Pebble this week?
You know what? I'm actually thinking Jeng Young Ko may come back, and I think she's due. I think kind of a little insider there with David Brooker, her caddy. He does some work with us, and he said she's close. So I think she's ready.
She's ready. I think Kupcho and Zhang are both going to be Rose are going to be part of the story. I think this is going to be a really this is going to be a chance for one of these moments where women's golf goes to a new level. On television, you can't turn Pebble off because it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. So just by that, the audience is going to be big. And if one of these right players, I mean, golf's tough. Everyone wants to win. Are you at your best at the right time? If the right player steps forward this week, it could be a big moment for women's golf. I know you'll be watching, Roger, as will I. We thank Coach Carrie Summerhays. She was fantastic, as all the coaches we've had here on the Hub of Junior Golf podcast. Leave questions. That's really an important part of this. If you can't reach out to Roger directly, you just want to leave a note here on our YouTube channel or wherever you view your podcast, we'll get those questions. We'll get the answer. We'll get you guys moving in the right direction. So for Roger, Nick, I'm Ryan Burr. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on the Hub of Junior Golf podcast.